Hello, this is the Software Matrix live on Print Island, and today I won't use the phrase legend, but
You can.
can I? Can I? I mean,
Yeah, sure.
some would say you're the chosen one, but I'd leave that for a second session maybe. Dave Rosendahl, MindFire Inc. Been going since 1999. Where do we begin on this story on MindFire?
Well, I can't believe it's been that long, but 1999 is when the first iteration of MindFire was birthed, and we've been through, like any, I think, entrepreneurial journey, we've been through a couple of different iterations. So that would be the first, and then there was a second, and then there was a third, and in the third chapter, that's when we kind of fell into the whole print and mail, marketing, digital print, that whole kind of wave as it was changing in 2008-ish, 2009. So the current manifestation of MindFire that most people know is about 15 years. But yeah, we've been around for a little bit more than that in total. Yeah,
Don't give away your age, mate.
exactly. Yeah, I was 10 when we started.
I can see it. You look great, man. You look great. What is it, Dave? In a nutshell, what is MindFire Inc.?
Yeah, so we're very focused on direct mail, and like I have an example of direct mail here in my hand. I'm sure your viewers and listeners are all familiar with direct mail, but here specifically in the United States and more generally also around the world, direct mail is under attack. And what I mean by that is that here in the U.S. for sure, there are elements of price increases that are driving down volume. As an example, postage going up here, USPS postage. It's no secret. It's gone up 30-40%, somewhere in that range in the last few years. We have the wonderful tariffs and all these other things that can create confusion and changes in underlying cost structures. All of that kind of putting a downward pressure on direct mail. We've also got digital marketing that's taking more of that budget. And so what we are focused on is helping direct mail printers and the brands that they serve that use direct mail not only make mail trackable, and what I mean by that is from the time the printer prints it and puts it into USPS, here in the United States, we're tracking it as it makes its way to the delivery point, to the mailbox. So we're tracking all of that.
Sure.
But then when the mail piece arrives in the hand of the consumer, the hand of the recipient, we're then tracking what happens from there, whether it becomes a lead or a sale, and thus giving the complete picture of attribution to the printer and to the brand that they're servicing to understand for every dollar of mail that we're printing, we're generating $5 or we're generating $10. And how do we do more of what's working and less of what's not? So that's MindFire's mission in a nutshell.
So you're completely trackable omnichannel experience.
Yep.
From digital merging into print, into the consumer's interaction, back again to your customer, telling them what happened. 360, right?
Yep.
So you pose the statement, direct mail's missing link. That's quite cool. Direct mail into omnichannel revenue. Oh, it's great. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, I've got to be honest. I thought direct mail was dead.
Yeah.
Some might take offense to that. Don't mean any offense by that. Is that a misconception, Dave? And obviously in the US, like you say, things are getting tougher economically. Costs are rising. I know in the UK it's the same. Royal Mail struggles as well. And where I am right now, we don't even have a mail service. So what's the future looking like in your eyes?
Yeah, I'll give you a little secret. If you're running any online ads or any kind of online promotion or message involving mail and you say direct mail is dead, that usually outperforms every other hook and line. It works really well because you'll get both the people who say, yeah, I knew it was dead. And then you'll get the people who will say, no, it's not dead. The answer is nuanced. I would say that direct mail, the kind of direct mail that our grandpa did, that grandma did, yeah, that kind of direct mail is dead.
Mm-hmm.
But the new form of direct mail that's measurable, trackable, that's omni-channel, that's very much alive and well. So when you look at, for example, here in the US, how much marketing mail arrives in our mailbox, it's down about 40% in terms of volume. So whereas if we used to maybe get 100 in a month, let's say, now we're getting 60, somewhere around there. The opportunity for the print companies that we serve and for their customers is now your message, the brand's message, has a greater chance of being seen in the mailbox.
Right.
So you could look at it as direct mail is dying, and it's certainly, there's no secret, the volume has gone down. But in that, and I tend to be an optimist, but in that there is a significant opportunity for data-driven direct mail that connects with the consumer at the right time, and where that message around the direct mail is reinforced in an omni-channel way. So
Okay.
that's the nuanced answer around, is it dead? It's parts of it have passed on, but there are new parts of it that are emerging and really exciting.
And if anyone knows you, Dave, they'll understand and grasp very quickly that you're a man about technology. You love your tech. You're very, should we say, forward thinking, and you embrace your AI. We have many jokes on that, don't we, sir? But you talk about the connection with the mail piece there when you were explaining about how the industry looks in North America. How does MindFire connect once that mail piece arrives through the mailbox in the US?
So does this get transmitted in video form as well
Yes,
as
yes,
just audio?
yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who are watching right now, you can see in my hand here, I have a direct mail piece. This is very common here in the US for a real estate agent. I think in the UK, or where you're from, you call them, what do you call them?
Estate agents.
There you go. Yeah, a little bit different, a little bit different. I'm learning from our friend John Bailey. So just think about whatever the term is in your part of the world where there is someone who's promoting a piece of real estate. And so that's very common here in the US. So the first thing we do here in the US, we have what's called the intelligent mail barcode. I know it's a little difficult to see, but it's right there.
Yeah.
That's the barcode that's scanned about 6 to 7 times. Oh, I just said 6, 7. Didn't even realize that, but 6 to 7 times as it makes its way through the United States Postal Service. So that's the first form of tracking.
Yeah.
The second, which is what you're asking about, is where we track using the personalized QR code here, the trackable phone numbers, and the personalized URL there on the piece, so that when the recipient gets it, and let's say they scan it with their cell phone, they scan the QR code with their cell phone,
Mhm.
instead of just going to the generic corporate website, which is where most mail takes the recipient, now that's being tracked to the individual. So we know it's Chris. Not only did he take the piece of mail out of the mailbox, not only did he scan it, but now we're watching what he's doing from that point forward. And so that's what gives us the complete visibility of that piece as it heads towards Chris's house, as he takes it out of the mailbox, and then as he engages with it.
Okay, interesting. So did a little bit of research, Dave, and I might have missed something here, but am I right in with my research saying that you basically interact with any piece of print? It can be from digital magazines, mobile apps, e-commerce systems, marketing campaigns, flip books, um, wallet passes, and I think that's going to be like as in your Apple Wallet. Is that right?
That's
Or
right. Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
financial marketing expertise, data analytics. I saw education on here as well. Tell me about the education piece. Where does direct mail and education come together? Because I would never piece those two pieces in the same room or conversation.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots. One is in admissions. So, at least
Mhm.
here in the United States, a lot of the higher education institutions go out and find prospective students
Mhm.
using direct mail. Now, maybe let's say 10 years ago, it was very heavy on the direct mail side, and then it swung all the way over to digital marketing. And now it's kind of finding an equilibrium back in the middle, like somewhere in the middle. But these universities, their primary goal is in the admissions department is student acquisition. So they're targeting here in the US as early as, I don't know what this would be called across the pond, but somewhere around 10th grade, 11th and 12th grade. So that's like sophomore, junior, senior,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range, they start targeting and looking at the kids, and in some cases even the parents of those kids, to start to move them through a sales process, a funnel, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
that's where direct mail comes into play. And that's going to the kid, to the student, as well as to their parents in some cases. And all of that is being tracked. So that's the higher ed use case. There's also, once they get somebody into the school and they graduate, then they go back and they start asking you for more money, right? They want donations and things like that from the folks who have graduated. So that's another very common place where we see direct mail being used for fundraising and appeal campaigns of that nature.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even think of that. And it just probably also resonates how much money can be made from the education system in the US, right? If they're starting that early to target not only the kids but the parents as well, right? That's really
Yeah.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so we both work in the print industry, have done for some time. Really, really interesting. We work on another project called Sheep for Brains, which we're both quite passionate about. I say quite passionate, very passionate about, with Jess 𝐃𝐞𝐫𝐬 and John Bailey. I was down a rabbit hole the other day researching social media effects on the next generation that are coming through, and one of the items that came up was social media is dying in essence with the next generation because it's too much, and they don't want to engage with it like we would have done through Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else. And as a result of that, radio advertising, print marketing, and direct mail are trending in
Yep.
essence. Old-fashioned marketing techniques, guerrilla marketing is back. Are you seeing that trend on your side of the world? You're based over in LA, I believe. Are you seeing that on the West Coast? Are you seeing, is radio as well? Is that something now as well? And is that something that could be linked into this sort of platform, this way of thinking?
I'll give you my answer as a parent, a
Yeah,
father in a moment, but let me start from the MindFire perspective.
sure.
So whenever we're in a meeting with a printer and or with their customer, the brand, there are always statements like the ones you just made, as well as other opinions that sometimes people in the room have, backed by data, sometimes backed by nothing.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
but people will say things, and they will then ask my opinion. What do you think? What are you guys seeing? And my answer is, you know what? You got to test it. You don't know until you test it, because there are so many different variables that can come into play. And when I say test it, what I mean is, with the MindFire mechanism of reporting and capturing all this data, you can answer that question. We can put some money on social. We can put some money in direct mail. We can put some money on radio. We can put some money on TV. And let the data decide, right? Instead of just assuming that what might be true generally is true for our market. And so
Mhm.
that's generally the way I answer the question is, hey, you got to test it, because one of the things is that you may be wrong, that data may be wrong, and you may uncover something about your particular market that maybe shifts over time. It may be true at one point in time and it may not be true in another. So there's just a lot of variables there. I would say test it. As a father, what I see is that there is a lot of pressure for my girls specifically to get onto social media. I think there is something called Cover Star. I'm not sure. Maybe you're on Cover Star. I don't know if you have it there now. Okay. Certainly, then there's Snapchat. I know you'd
Yeah.
like to do your little Snapchat dances and stuff. I'm just kidding.
TikTok.
TikTok, yeah. Yeah, TikTok for sure, but it's like Snapchat and this Cover Star thing, Instagram, TikTok, yes, and YouTube. I mean, YouTube is a major force in influencing how the generation of kids that I'm exposed to here in the US
Yeah.
are learning, from these brands what they should want to consume. So, they watch these stupid unboxing videos.
Yeah, my
These
girls do. My girls do. But I
Oh
guess
my
the
gosh.
point I'm making, Dave, is probably not the generation of our kids, right? Because I think I see YouTube taking over. It's the source
Yeah.
of truth now, right? You want to find something
Yeah.
else, YouTube it, listen to music, it's all on there, right? But I think the generation I see working for in the mid to late 20s seem to be retracting a bit from what I would call traditional social media. I don't know if you see that as well.
What age group did you say? Mid to late
I'd
20s?
say, I'd say late teens to late 20s. They seem to have ditched Facebook. They seem to be sporadically
Definitely
on.
ditch Facebook. Facebook is
Yeah.
grandpa's place to go, grandma's place. Yes. Yes, for sure. Yeah,
And
generally that I see that. Yes.
yeah. And I think generally I find them, very, very aware of their screen time and wanting to digital detox and not share data as such. But as my girls, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, your eldest is 9 or 10.
13.
13.
Abby, yeah,
Okay.
13.
So, and being your daughter, she's probably very aware of the tech industry. But I just wonder whether I guess this is a loaded question, Dave, because I get the impression that the MindFire platform is the all-seeing eye for the business this is the impression I get, that actually
Hmm.
you're not saying and your answer just a minute ago with your MindFire hat on was to experiment. So
Hmm.
does that mindset go down into the way the software is built, in the sense of you build this dashboard, this system, and actually you put everything out over every channel, and then
Yep.
you measure and you adjust? Is that
Yep.
it in
Yeah.
a nutshell?
Yeah. So the core of what a user would experience inside of MindFire is a workflow designer, where it's a drag and drop interface for creating an omni-channel campaign. And so think of those different omni-channel elements like Legos. They can be put together in different configurations. And once you learn how to put them together, kind of generally speaking, then you can essentially architect any workflow. So that could be email, direct mail, text messaging, the wallet stuff that you talked about,
Hmm.
landing pages, microsites, triggers, all of those things that need to happen in order to effectuate a campaign is designed in the workflow. And then behind the scenes, all of that is being tracked in
Hmm.
a customer data platform. And then the intelligence that comes out of that is viewed through the dashboards and the reports.
Okay, that's really cool. And what sort of connections does it have? How does it have API connections? Does it have any integrations at all? Anything that you can bolt on to that?
Yeah, because we work with a lot of high volume direct mailers here in the US, the need for automation, generally speaking, for those organizations is high, but also we have a lot of pressure. And I think this is probably true around the world. It's
Yeah.
hard to find good people who want to go into print, right? And so
Mm.
there's an aging workforce here in the US. And so all that being said, it's very important that when we launch with a customer that we integrate as much as possible. And so whether that's through APIs, we are API first,
Mhm.
or through other automated workflow systems. Hot folders is really common. They place a file into a hot folder, a file that used to be mailed. We pick it up, process it, add all the MindFire stuff to it, and then put it back into another hot folder, and their process picks up from there. All of those kinds of configurations are set within MindFire.
Okay, brilliant. And is SaaS solution hosted in
Yes.
the cloud?
Yep.
Yeah.
Always since day
Yeah.
one. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I notice, politely, I mean this nicely, you're everywhere. I see you I see you probably more online to try and find out where you are than I ever see
Then
you
in
at
person.
home or in the
Yeah.
studio.
Yeah.
I guess the question would be how many days a year do you spend at home, rather than how many days a year do you spend away from home. But one of the biggest things that resonates with me when I see where you go is it's different OEMs, different verticals, different,
Mm.
you know, does MindFire sit in a particular vertical in the print industry, or are you, the solution for all verticals, all areas of print?
So we're not married to any one OEM. We have wonderful relationships with all of our friends at HP, as an example, and we know many of those
Yeah.
people in common. Canon, Screen. I mean, the list goes on and on. 𝐃𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐸, Minolta. Now they're going to get mad because I haven't named all of them. Ricoh, as an example, right?
But put
Love
more in
my
the
my
comments
boys over
below.
at Ricoh. So we have great relationships with all of them. We are agnostic to the OEM.
Hmm.
There are some partners that we have deeper relationships with. I'm thinking of Sylvamo as an example.
Hmm.
They're a paper or substrate company. So one of the things that we've done, just to clarify, why I even mention a paper company, is about 18 months ago, as I was looking strategically at MindFire and kind of the
Yeah.
road ahead, I noticed that we as software companies make life really, really hard for our customers. A simple example is, inside of MindFire, we might call something by one name, and then after the data leaves MindFire and goes to my friends at 𝐷𝐸, as an example, they might call it something else. Well, in the mind of the user at the print company, now he or she's having to think of two different things, right? Is that the same thing as what I'm doing here in 𝐷𝐸? Is this the same field? That little thing compounds as you think about, left to right across the value chain of
Mm.
how data-driven direct mail is produced. That adds up to a lot. So what we're trying to do is become the hub, both in terms of just bringing these folks together, these organizations, as
Mhm.
well as from a data interplay, interoperability perspective, bring these solutions together. And so we remain agnostic to the OEM, to the mail tracking solution, to the substrate. But what we are trying to do is bring these companies together to deliver more value for our mutual customers. Because at the end of the day, all of these companies have the same goal, which is we got to drive more volume. We got to at least stabilize mail volume, or we got to increase it. So we're
Interesting.
agnostic. Yep.
Yeah, and I love that, Dave. And I think that's the way to be, because obviously it can't be one size fits all, can it? When you go into a business and I'm, again, knowing you, knowing a little bit about the company, that the research also says ROI is at the heart of everything that you do.
Yep. Yep.
I think you can quote, or you've worked with roughly around 15,000 clients over 22 years,
Yep.
which is pretty impressive in such a specialist area. In terms of the ROI, is there anything that you'd like to share in terms of what you're proud of, or over those 22 years, or out of those 15,000 clients?
I think the thing I'm most proud of is certainly the ROI is important, but what gets me going, Chris, is the impact we can make on the people at these companies. When I see them get excited about something new, when I see them realize that their print company, which maybe has struggled, has opportunities, when I can bring hope, because at many of these print companies, they're very heads down. They're focused on keeping their presses humming, keeping the presses moving. And it's easy to lose sight of what's going on out there in the rest of the world. And so one of the reasons why I like traveling and seeing these folks is because I'm able to bring them a little bit of, hey, yeah, I know it's tough right now, but here are 2 or 3 other ideas that I'm seeing work elsewhere. Would these help you? And then them say, actually, you know what? That would. That's what gets me going. Almost as much as a positive ROI is the personal aspect to it.
And it comes back to that point you made about experimentation again. Then you test and learn, and then you share that data with your collective. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Dave. So what is coming in the mail space? Do you see now? Let's get right to it. Let's not skirt around it. Dave Rosendahl, aka the Chosen One. What are we saying about AI and the mail space?
Yeah, it's very exciting. So one of the things that we're seeing right now is that we are embedding AI into the direct mail piece itself. And I don't just mean using generative AI to create the image or to modify the text.
Yeah, we don't
By
like
the
that.
way, here, huh?
We don't like that stuff. We want the real stuff.
We want the real stuff. Yeah, but by the way, here in the US, folks, if you're listening to this, you can receive here in 2026 a 5% discount on your postage if you do what I just described. Either use AI to create the image or use AI to create the text. It's just money sitting on the table. Yeah. All you have to do is upload the prompt. Yeah. That's number one. The second thing, though, that's more exciting to that is that when the recipient of this piece scans the personalized QR code, that will initiate now on your phone or whatever device you scan it on, an actual conversation with that mail piece. So you'll hear a voice, it welcomes you, it asks you how you're doing, it's very kind and empathetic. And what it's designed to do, that voice agent, what it's designed to do is have a 2-way natural language conversation with you, Chris, to understand what caught your eye about the direct mail piece and move you subtly from point A to point B to point C. Usually that's, in the case of real estate, come out and take a look at the house. In the case of financial services, if it's a credit card offer like we're doing for some brands, it's to give your intent to, get the card. They ask you a few questions, and then it qualifies you, and hopefully you get the card in the mail. So for whatever the campaign is, it's moving you through natural language from one point to the next, and that is super exciting for many of the brands that we're talking to and the printers, because that's giving our print customers a whole new way of adding value to mail and to print that most have never even conceived of.
Okay, that sounds really exciting. Will we see that in 2026, do you think?
Yes, sir. You can see it now.
Okay, you heard it here first again. So I don't know if we can, Dave. Can we put 2 links in the description? About the US postal piece that you mentioned, and what you just mentioned about AI as well.
Absolutely.
That would be great. That'd be fantastic. What's your personal view, Dave? I find you a really interesting, enlightening character. You're refreshing for the world of software in the print space. What's your personal view on the adoption of AI? And as a CEO, what do you really think the businesses need to do better in the print industry?
Yeah, so I get asked to speak on this topic probably more than any other right now. And I have a perspective that's informed through a lot of research and study, but also very hands-on day-to-day use. A lot of the speakers out there, and no offense to any of them, a lot of the folks that are out there talking about AI are not actually practitioners of it. They can't code. They're not working at the API level. They're not inside of it daily. And I think to really have an informed view, you have to get your hands dirty. That's just my point of view. And so when I'm out there talking to CEOs, to other business leaders, there's a couple of things that I say. And one is that I think you need to take an AI first mentality. And what I mean by that is if your company is profitable, that it is very likely that someone who thinks about using AI as the foundation for their company, as opposed to just slapping a little AI here or there, somebody who starts with AI as the foundation is going to look at your company, look at your industry, and say, hey, there are profits to extract from that market. And I could do it at a tenth of the cost that the incumbent is doing it because I'm starting from an AI first perspective. And so it's a thought exercise saying, what would it look like for my company, for my business unit, and even for me as an individual if I started from an AI first perspective as opposed to just trying to slap a little bit of AI here and there because it's the cool thing to do. So that's the first thought exercise I often take people through is just imagine for a moment if you were starting from day one and you had nothing, you didn't have to worry about the debt service payments, you didn't have to worry about payroll, you didn't have to worry about your real all of the stuff that you have.
Sure.
And you were starting today, what would it look like? So that's number one. Number two is I'm pretty unapologetic. It's coming for jobs. It's coming for industries. Now, I don't subscribe to the view yet that means that there's going to be a whole bunch of people unemployed. I think that the jobs that we do, the things that we do are going to evolve. But there are certain jobs like the call center on the other end of most direct mail. If you're doing high volume direct mail, most of the time that goes to a call center. If somebody's talking on the phone, those days are numbered. Because today, what is today? November 18th, 2025, as we record this here. This is the worst it's ever going to be. This is the slowest it's ever going to be. This is the least real it's ever going to seem. It's only going to get better from here, and it's doing that very rapidly. So my personal view is that we need to think ahead to where the puck is going, not skating to where it is now, but where it's likely to be. And man, that's hard. That's hard not only for us as businesses, that's hard for us as employees inside of a business. And I think about my kids. College, I'm not sure it makes sense. You go and you get a degree in whatever it is, let's say graphic design or some sort of, why? I think we need to really think about where is the world going to be and make sure that we're putting our investment in higher education into something that's going to have an ROI. Otherwise, we're going to saddle these kids with debt, and we already have that problem. So anyhow, I don't want to get off track, but those are some of my personal views.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, just slightly staying on that point, the Middle East, one of the points I loved about the Middle East is that the AI studies are becoming compulsory across every state. And the accessibility to AI systems like ChatGPT are going to be paid for by local governments, so everyone will have a paid account and it'll be compulsory. Now, you raise a really valid point there. What does university college look like for the next generation? I agree with you, Dave. I think that the rule book is ripped up, and kids will now go somewhere where they're going to be learning about tech, and learning about AI and how to use AI properly, and the whole thing's going to change. I completely agree. But that was actually a loaded question, Dave, and that was to lead me into a bit of another little story that I wanted to share or pull out with you, extract from you. Last year, Dave, I read something online about MindFire and how you've embraced AI as a business, and it was a very warming, empowering story about a certain member of staff who will remain nameless. Don't want to embarrass her. Lovely, lovely person. But I picked up on certain points here that you enforced in a positive way the use of AI into the working day, every single practice. You worked on an assumption that if you use it properly, you can save 1% of time on every single task, i.e., saving so many days a month. But what I read was this individual felt not only gained the confidence at a later stage of their working life to use it, but also felt empowered, more confident, and the output was. Could you tell me a little bit about that story that I'm talking about?
Yeah, you know, what I found is as we were starting to roll it out that there were points of resistance inside of the company. You know, some people thought it was overhyped, that it was a fad, too difficult to learn, you know,
Mhm.
required, you know, technical skills. And then I think there was some trepidation around it coming for jobs because I would be pretty open with people like, "Why are you doing that manually? I could do it in 10 seconds with AI." And if I'm not careful, that comes across as, "What do I need you for?" Right? And
Mm,
that's not
mm,
what I meant, but I understand that that's how that can come across if we're not careful.
mm.
So, although maybe in some cases I did mean it that way, but I'm just kidding. So with this particular person and with this particular initiative, what I wanted to do with the people closest to me is to encourage them to start to use it. And I mean, that started with simply as an example, you know, just becoming comfortable opening up ChatGPT or Claude, which is the one that we use quite often, and starting to ask it the questions that you would normally ask Dave. Instead of coming to me, why don't you try going there first? Oh, but what do I say to it? Well, what would you ask me?
Can I have a raise?
Blah 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 blah. Okay, we'll throw that in there. See what happens. And it was kind of, you know, those baby steps of just
Yeah.
saying instead of going to a human, let me use it as a thought partner. Let me get some feedback from it. Let me use it to refine my thinking. And so the particular person you're talking about gained confidence fairly quickly and oh wow, this does save a lot of time. A lot of the monkey work that this person would do after a meeting or after a sales call. Wow, this can be done in minutes as opposed
Mm,
to maybe an hour and
mm,
done at a level that's just not even comparable to human work. But I
mm.
mean, most of the time, you know? And so that's how that started. And then, you know, we kind of got a group of, I don't know, it was a small group, 6 or 7 people that kind of started as the initial cohort. And as they started to gain success, we just had them share it with others and it just picked up steam from there. So that's how we did it.
Dave, I love it. And I tell you why I love it from a human sustainability angle, because it's where you hear a positive on embracing it within every day. It's where that we tackle an issue in the Western world of an aging population, and
Mm,
where we're going to be working longer than our parents or grandparents ever did. And actually, if it helps make their life a bit easier and gives them confidence and makes them feel better about what they do, I mean, it's so uplifting. So I think it's something that you guys should take real credit for, because I think it's gone a little bit under the radar. We covered it at FESPA Global in
mm.
Berlin in the summer as part of an AI track to say, AI can be good if you've got the right leadership adopting it. And I'd like to say bravo to you on that one.
Yeah,
But
Chris, can I add one
yeah,
more thing there?
sure, sure.
It's something I've realized that's a blind spot for me, and that is I don't know, maybe you know this about me, but maybe not. I was homeschooled as a kid, and do you know what that is? You have that?
Well, we do have it, but
Okay.
it's, yeah, rare.
Does it have a negative connotation?
Sorry,
Does it have a negative connotation?
it depends who's doing the homeschooling.
Okay. Okay. Well, when I was a kid here in the US, homeschooling was kind of like, well, you know, that's for the weird kids, or, you know, people joke with me and they're like, oh, that explains a lot. I'm like, well, I don't know what that means, but okay. But it has kind of uh, that sentiment from when I
Yeah.
was a kid. Now it's pretty cool. I mean, it's much different than it was when I was a
I
kid.
think
The
COVID
point is,
changed that, Dave. That COVID changed that, right? Because um, I think there's a
it did.
stigma around it, and
Yeah.
then you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
It certainly helped. Yeah. COVID helped a lot of things, by
Mm,
the way, including the adoption of personalized QR codes. That was very helpful for MindFire. It's a terrible time, but
mm,
there were some silver linings. Anyhow, the reason why I share the homeschooling facet is that one of the things that comes very naturally to me that I forget is not true for everyone is that I have a desire to learn and I can teach myself. And that was one of the things that my mom instilled in me and that she cultivated through this homeschooling that we did when I was a kid that I keep with me today. And so what I mean by that as I relate it to AI is that I am under the false assumption, unless I actively remind myself that, Dave, just because you're obsessed with this and you go and learn this thing, you know, at night or on the weekends or in a few minutes here or on a run or whatever it is, and then you bring it back into your work, that's not how everybody operates.
mm.
Some people need to be, I don't want to say spoon fed. That sounds a little pejorative, but they need to be trained, right? Or they expect training. That's how they learn. That's not how my brain works. I feel like we are at this big bang moment here with AI. This is like the very beginning, and it's going to change everything.
Okay.
Why wouldn't you want to go and teach yourself everything you can outside of work and just invest some time in developing yourself as a person with this new
Mm.
technology, because it does have the potential to eliminate your job. Why wouldn't you do that if you really thought that that was on the line? And yet I'm constantly reminded that that's the way my brain works. It's not the way everyone else's mind works.
Mm. Okay. Dave, I think that's really refreshing again. I think the homeschooling bit does explain a lot, but I'll leave that as a personal conversation we can have offline. Um, COVID, you touched on COVID. I mean, a lot of people are bored of talking about it, I know, but I think also, again, referring back to Sheep for Brains, we've uncovered there's a lot of PTSD and trauma
Yep.
coming out now from COVID. But that's not what I want to talk to you about today. Let's talk about the technology. Let's talk about MindFire and what happened during those dark days, because the positivity you lit up then when you were
Mm,
explaining the positive side. And again, I was working in web to print during that time, and web to print came alive, and POD came alive because actually the printers were forced to adapt or die. It was that extreme, wasn't it? It's adapt or
yep.
die. Tell me about
Yep.
your story during that time, Dave.
It's interesting. It was a very good time for us from a business perspective, but it had some unforeseen or unintended consequences, second order consequences. What I mean by that is, our core focus had been for many years enabling the printer or the agency who uses direct mail to do everything we just discussed at the beginning of the episode. During the pandemic, the greater need that emerged was companies needing to stay alive, meaning they needed to market and they needed to sell in order to keep the lights on and keep people employed. And so we pivoted from focusing on helping printers sell omni-channel campaigns to their customers to using the same technology and the same ideas, but focusing it on the idea of self-promotional marketing that the printer could use, or that the agency could use, or that a brand could use to bring in customers. You know,
Mm,
distinction between those two things. But what happened is, because so many people needed this marketing, we started investing in product and features and people and resources around that, which ultimately took us away from our core business. So for a while, it seemed like it was a good move, but over some time, I realized, hey, we're just spread too thin. We're not doing
mm,
anything as well as we should be because we've got people on a whole bunch of different things.
mm.
The justification that I have in my own mind is, I remember back to March 13th, 2020, when we moved everybody remote as a test, and then we ended up being here in the US. I think it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Everyone was supposed to be remote for 2 weeks, and then it turned into 2 years.
Yeah.
What I what I what I know to be true is that there were points in time where I seriously wondered if this was the end. I don't know
Mm,
if you remember that. I don't know if it was like
mm.
that for you, but I was looking at the math and looking at how this thing was compounding and spreading, and the viral nature of the disease. And
I
I thought,
did.
I don't know where the
Yeah.
world's going to end, man.
No,
I don't know where this is going.
I can see that, because those that couldn't adapt quick enough went out of business. And sometimes we're talking very large businesses with
Absolutely.
thousands of
It was
employees.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, we got to try anything. We got to be
Yeah.
ready for anything. And so that diffuse focus actually worked really well during that situation, but coming out of it, as I've gotten older, the ability to focus is so hard and so critical,
Mm,
that I had to make some decisions to basically let a chunk of business go. We just weren't equipped to handle it coming out of the
wow.
pandemic.
Well, that's really interesting, though, because the first thing I thought of is we're all locked down, and now you're empowering postal collateral coming through the door, and you've got the whole world sat at home. You know what I mean? Like it
Yep.
sounds like a dream, really.
Yep.
But okay, well, that's great feedback, and obviously focuses the message there. Just before I go on to my last question, Dave, if people want to find out more about the platform, can they visit you at the website, get a
Yeah.
demonstration?
MindFireInc.com,
Okay,
MindFireinc.com. I'm sure we'll put that in the show notes, but MindFire Inc. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there.
details below. Okay, so you're on LinkedIn. Funny enough, nice little segue there. You're co-founder and president. us in the UK find it very funny when we hear the phrase president for American individuals, because we often make that comparison with the president of the United States. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so Dave, I'm going to come on to my next question. I saw photos
I
of
feel
you.
like you're setting me up for something here.
I have, sir. I have. I saw photos of you recently at Capitol Hill. Did I say that right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the president was at Capitol Hill, the chosen one.
What do you call it? Like 345 Downing Street or something? What is it?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay.
Yeah, just 10 Downing Street. 345. It's not a zip code. Capitol Hill, Dave. What was going on there? What were you doing there? How did you get security clearance?
Yeah, that's an important question. Well, so there's a couple of things. One of the issues that I've noticed, as I mentioned, all of these players that are involved in the direct mail, data-driven direct mail ecosystem, is that there's a general lack of knowledge around what is actually available to help mailers and printers in terms of things like postage promotions and incentives that the USPS provides. And so through a friendship with a great guy, Chris Minn, BCC Software, who's become a very close friend now, I started getting closer and closer to not only BCC and Chris Minn, but also the United States Postal Service.
Okay.
And ultimately was invited to join and participate in what they call MTAC, which is the Mailers Technical Advisory Committee. It serves at the pleasure of the U.S. Postmaster General, so the CEO, if you will, of USPS. And the goal is to act as kind of the conduit for gathering information from the industry into this group and then feeding it to the relevant USPS executives and the different teams in order to continue to improve what USPS does for the industry here. And so through that, it happens in Washington. It's about every quarter, every 3 months or so. So I'm in Washington 4 or 5 times a year for that purpose. And then in addition, many of these organizations that I've kind of pulled into this ecosystem, as an example, Sylvamo, 1 out of 3 direct mail pieces here in the US use their paper.
Yeah.
These companies have GR people, government relations people, that are specifically on staff to develop and foster and nurture relationships with our elected officials. And so in one of, I think the LinkedIn post that you saw in one of our most recent visits, I went with Sylvamo and a few others to visit with members of Congress to advocate for our industry. You know, it sounds fancy, but it's basically just sitting down, meeting them, learning a little bit about them learning about us, and then talking about the issues that are important, the bills that they're working on. They have some questions, and then usually it's a follow-up process with their staff or somebody on their team to continue to advocate. And it's building relationship, leaning into it, and just making them aware of what's going on in the industry. So that's a little bit of what you saw there online.
That's pretty cool, though, man, that you can get to fly the flag and do your thing, because the industry needs help all the time. We need people like that. I was luckily the IPIA, which both John and I are involved with. We've mentioned before when working with you with Sheep for Brains, and the IPIA actually went to number 10 Downing Street and then lobbied the government, and that was quite a big deal for us in the UK print industry. So I was really, really impressed to see you doing that, bud. And I think
cool.
Long may it continue. We need more people like you. Dave, I think we need to get you back on next year to hear about this new piece of AI tech. It'd be good to see that. Maybe you could do a demonstration for us. That'd be awesome.
For sure.
I'd like to say thanks for everything you do. Thank you for your mindset. Thanks for the stuff you share with us. Whether we want to hear it or not, it's useful. So keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for joining us on The Matrix.
You got it, Chris. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for doing what you're doing, spreading the word. And again, I'm excited to see where this goes. If anybody wants to reach out and talk further and continue the conversation, I'm happy to do that. So thank you, Chris, for your time. Really appreciate it.